My name is Maria Farrell, and I work for the Servants of Mary, and they founded a little itty-bitty school you might be familiar with in 1955, Marian High School. How many of you are familiar with Marian High School? Excellent. They taught me in high school, and so now I have the privilege of working for them, and I head up their National Grief Work Ministry. And it really plays into their charism. Who knows what a charism is? In the outside world of CEOs, a charism would be like your company motto. So their motto is compassionate presence in the spirit of Mary. And so through my work, through grief work, I hope to carry out their charism to the community, both here in Omaha, and I do speaking nationally. So my official title is thanatologist. Who knows what a thanatologist is? Yeah, that's generally what happens when I ask that question. Nobody raises their hands and I hear a lot of crickets. A thanatologist is somebody who works in the arena of grief, death, and loss. So when I sit on the airplane and I tell people what I do, I generally get looks like, we're on an airplane. Could you please not talk about death and dying and loss? So the topic generally makes people very uncomfortable. We just are not a society that likes to talk about death. But it is something that is guaranteed to happen to every single one of us. Okay? So I work with individuals that have experienced a death or loss. I work with faith communities who are looking to either establish or grow their bereavement ministries. I work with any group looking for information or training on grief, loss, and I conduct workshops locally and nationally here. I don't focus solely on death. I talk about a lot of different kinds of loss that results in grieving. So death is one form of loss, divorce, incarceration, reduction in workforce. Those are all types of losses that people grieve. But when we talk about grieving and mourning, we generally talk about death. But there are other types of losses out there that you should be familiar with. Okay? Part of what I do is help people understand the many different types of grief there are. You would think grief is just grief, but it's not. And by knowing the differences and the types of grief, it will help you better minister to those people around you. So just three very simple examples. Anticipatory grief. This is usually experienced with somebody who is suffering from a long-term illness. We get a diagnosis, this is going to be terminal, they have 1 to 5 years, we have all this time to anticipate this person's death. During that time, you're experiencing lots of different losses. The loss of independence for this person, perhaps the loss of their physical appearance, the loss of the income that they brought into your family. So you have a lot of different losses as you're anticipating the death. Okay? Just because you have time to anticipate doesn't mean the impact isn't going to be felt as strongly as a sudden death. Okay? Every death is sudden. That moment, I'm alive here, I'm dead here, that is sudden. Okay? So everybody experiences sudden death. Disenfranchised grief is a type of grief where the death might be stigmatized, such in the case of a completed suicide. Or it could be, if you are divorced, the death of your ex-spouse. Society feels that that relationship isn't as important as it used to be because it's your ex-spouse or this person completed suicide. Okay? There are stigmas attached to it. Ambiguous grief, it occurs when there's like no proof of the death, so there's no body. This happens a lot during wartime, particularly when prisoners are taken. And they're gone for many, 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 many years, and eventually that prisoner is declared dead. But there's no body. There's no remains to come home. Okay? The process of grief is circular. Who knew you were going to get a lesson on grief? This is what I do every day. So just to tell you what I did, I had to educate. The process of grief is circular. It's not linear. I'm sure many of us have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her stages of, okay, She was studying the stages of terminally ill patients coming to terms with their own death, not the survivors, not the people left behind. So grief is circular. So there really is never closure. There are better days, because today I'm sad. A year from now, wow, I see hope, I can go on living, we're going to do things, but oh, here comes the anniversary of the death, and now I'm sad again. Or something else happens and it triggers all those grief emotions again. So it's more circular than it is linear. Death and loss moments is when our compassion for others can come out, okay? And this can happen in the daily moments of your life. So my hope in working in this arena is that I offer an opportunity for those grieving to share their stories of loss. The biggest gift I offer to people is my willingness to listen. That is the biggest form of compassion you can offer to somebody, is to listen to them, listen to their story. I hope I help them realize that each grief journey is as individual as they are. There is no right way, there is no wrong way to grieve. Everybody will grieve differently. You will see this even in your family units. You will grieve differently than a sibling. You will grieve differently than a parent. You will grieve differently than a child. So I'm going to leave you with 3 very simple things you can do to show your compassion to someone when they experience the death of a loved one. Use the name of the deceased. It's not going to hurt those who lost their loved one. It will actually bring them comfort. How wonderful is it to hear, let's say, some of you have children away at college, and you don't hear from their friends every day, and you don't see them every day, but boy, isn't it fun when somebody says, oh, I ran into Grant the other day, and it was so fun to see him. And me being Grant's mom, that just lights up my world, because somebody saw him, somebody took the time to talk to him, he made a connection. Hearing his name brings comfort. The same will happen to those who have lost a loved one. So don't be afraid to use the name of the deceased. Whether you're in line at a funeral service, a wake, or sending a card, share a memory. Share a memory of that person. So instead of going up and saying, I'm so sorry for your loss, you can maybe say, you know, Alan, when your mom died, I was very sad to hear that. And a memory I have of her is, Alan owns a lot of the Arby's around here. My Aunt Josie used to work in his Arby's. And the memory I shared with him was when I would go through the drive-thru, Aunt Josie would always say, Maria, come on through and I'll give you a mocha shake. So every time I went to Arby's, I would tell Aunt Josie, hey, it's me, Maria, and she'd say, come on through, I'll give you a Jamocha shake. Alan never knew his mom did that. Never, ever, ever. So it was a fun little memory that I shared with him that he had no idea she had ever done. Okay? If you don't have a memory of the deceased person, maybe it's, I remember how fondly you talked of your brother. Every time you would mention his name, I could see in your face how much you loved him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. Offer specific help. I will pick you up and take you to Mass. The hardest thing is for men and women to attend Mass for the first time without their partner. They find that extremely difficult if they've done that. My mom and dad have gone to daily Mass every day for 56 years. And I know when the day comes when one of them dies, that it will be tremendously hard for the survivor to go to Mass that first time. So offer to pick them up. I'll make sure your lawn snow removal is taken care of. Our kids are in a lot of the same activities. I'll arrange for the rides. Be very specific, as opposed to, if you need anything, let me know. Because in that moment, they don't know what they need. And it's difficult for people to reach out and ask for help. So if you offer specific help and follow up on it, that will offer great comfort. Okay. Being a compassionate presence happens in the everyday moments and events of our lives, so I urge you to watch for those moments. Thank you.